Welcome to the U.S. latest news channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. Investigators have identified the images of the assassination from security cameras located near the shooting site and actively operating. It was also obtained from a video recording taken by a person who witnessed these assassination events. It was quite easily possible to establish the identity of 5 Russian soldiers who fired at civilian vehicles in a short time. This 5-piece Russian military penal code identified 438% item, so intentional violation of the laws and customs of war for murder on the basis of follow-up legal action taken will be made by VR. As mentioned earlier, a delegation of French investigators has entered Ukraine and, together with Ukrainian colleagues, will work to document crimes in the occupied territories of the Kharkiv region. The National Police of Ukraine released a video capturing the testimonies of the victims. Thus, again, the attackers are the second of art. They were informed that they were suspects within the scope of the section. Residents of Hostomel by reporting that shelling and airstrikes by these Russian forces deprived him of water, food, electricity, and medicines. The constant shelling also prevented residents from receiving humanitarian aid and support, evacuating from the town, and even being able to remove the body from the street. While Russian soldiers were putting extra pressure on Hostomel to advance, there were reports that the Kadyrovs were operating closer to Hostomel airport and robbing residents. Eyewitnesses reported that some Russian soldiers even opened fire on ambulances. Ukrainian forces have officially engaged Russian forces in battle in Hostomel, the city. The Chief Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine reported that special forces under the commanders and local resistance destroyed Hostomel. It is stated that about 10 of them were destroyed near the town's glass factory. The Russian forces were ultimately repulsed from this town. A video posted on social media showing the aftermath of the urban battle clearly showed completely destroyed and abandoned Russian vehicles and dead Russian soldiers spread out on the streets. A Ukrainian sniper also killed Major General Andrei Suhovetsky at Hostomel or Hostomel Airport, namely the 41st Airborne Division. He killed the deputy commander of the combined armed forces. Ukrainian forces, on the other hand, took Russian forces to the streets Defostom and reportedly destroyed a BMD, and they bombarded Russian forces with Grad rockets. Elsewhere in Hostomel, Ukrainian soldiers defeated a Kadyrovtsi unit, confiscating weapons, equipment, and armored vehicles. Ukrainian forces later reported that they had retaken control of Hostomel from Russian forces. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the Russian 31. The Guard said the Air Assault Brigade suffered at least 50 dead and casualties in the clashes in Hostomel. Special Forces 3. The Special Purpose Regiment and local resistance fighters also reportedly participated in the extra fighting. Russian weapons, equipment, personnel, and personal documents were seized by the Ukrainian army, and all usable working weapons were redistributed to the local resistance. It was stated that the Russian soldiers who died did not have any identity documents. It was said that only vaccination certificates and empty medical books existed as information. However, on the same day, it was stated that Ukrainian forces Major Valery Chibanaev was killed near Hostomel Airport. According to the information received, 31. Russian forces from the Guard's Air Assault Brigade later returned to Hostomel, and it turned out that they had occupied a residential complex and taken 40 or more residents hostage. The Russians were told by a journalist named Vinichenko that she was held in captivity for 6 days by Russian forces located in the basement of the apartment building. And according to him, Russian soldiers gathered 60 people, including himself, into the basement and carried out similar actions with 90 people in a neighboring apartment complex, confiscating their phones, looting their homes, and spreading false information about the state of the war, such as the seizure of Kiev and Odessa by Russian forces. The only time the residents were allowed to leave the basement was either to smoke or to collect water, Vinichenko said, noting that on March 10th, the day of her escape, Russian soldiers gathered and announced to residents to go to Belarus. He tried to convince the rest of the residents to flee with him, and he only reported that they were too distraught to go out. Vinichenko picked up her girlfriend and fled the town when a passing motorist picked them up. 3 Russian soldiers saw what they were doing, but they didn't make any extra effort to stop them either. The Russia-Ukraine war, which is called one of the most controversial geographical tensions of recent years, now brings many issues and discussions behind it. It is known that while the support and statements of the Eastern countries in favor of Russia continue, many new support for Ukraine has been received by the West. America, which has now announced that it is one of the most important supporters of Ukraine in the Russia-Ukraine war, has rolled up its sleeves to realize one of the most important aid in its history. The U.S. Senate also completed negotiations on the appropriation for the assistance to be made and approved the allocation of the appropriation. Now millions of people are looking forward to the day when the aid that will be delivered to Ukraine by the United States will be realized. The U.S. Senate has announced that it has approved the bill for the financing that will be defined to be sent to Ukraine in the past days. In this development, which is important for Ukraine, it is planned to provide more than $12 billion in financial assistance to the occupied country by the United States. This operation, which had a positive echo in many countries, was also one of the most important proofs that the United States fully supports Ukraine in terms of the war. The United States, which is known for providing ammunition and equipment to Ukrainian soldiers militarily, has decided to provide financial assistance for the first time with a bill approved throughout the country. 72 senators voted for the bill put forward by the U.S. Senate. While 23 American lawmakers voted negatively against the bill, the implementation of the financial payments for Ukraine was finalized with the vote of 49 senators. At this point, according to the authors of The Hill, the aid to Ukraine will be exactly $12.4 billion. The bill is now expected to be signed by Joe Biden and approved by the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, while the U.S. Senate is talking about the creation of a huge financial support on the basis of Ukraine, another historic step has been taken by America. While the repercussions of financial support have not yet subsided, it has been announced that an aid package for Ukraine will be created by the United States. At this point, it was also reported that the ongoing bill should be adopted and approved by government agencies. According to the relevant draft aid package, a package will be prepared containing all the necessary items for Ukraine to be able to fight Russia on a full scale. In addition to the aid allowance, this package will include many products that will provide training materials, combat equipment, weapons, and logistical support. Moreover, according to statements made by the U.S. Senate, America is providing $12.4 billion in financial assistance to Ukraine, while the aid to be sent on behalf of the war package is expected to amount to exactly $3 billion. Moreover, in addition to the October aid provided by the United States, another $1.5 billion will be distributed to countries that provide Ukraine with war products and educational support. Moreover, the U.S. Senate has also rolled up its sleeves to provide more different assistance for countries that have established training areas such as Interflex. America, which is shown as one of the most important allies of Ukraine, has now proved that it will provide all kinds of support for Ukrainian soldiers in the context of the war against Russia. After the $12.4 billion aid and military aid package approved by the U.S. Senate, it was noted that much different work can be done now. In the statements made by the United States, it was stated that Ukraine will be offered about $2.8 billion worth of extra funding support after $12.4 billion in military, intelligence, and defense support in the context of the ongoing war. The aid provided to Ukraine, especially in the matter of ammunition, will be stretched to a full $540 million. This tranche of support is cited as one of the most important military supports made by America. At this point, the U.S. Senate stated that with the end of the war, they will also be able to make new social benefits for Ukrainian citizens so that they can meet their needs and overcome the effects of the war. Now millions of people have started to look forward to what will be the aid that will be delivered by the United States to the Ukrainian region. During a Senate meeting earlier this month, Joe Biden had asked Congress to immediately provide Ukraine with $11.7 billion in military and economic terms for urgent needs. At this point, the American authorities, who started working immediately, are now preparing to provide $11.7 billion in support so that Ukraine can meet its urgent needs. Moreover, this figure will be sent before the $12.4 billion in aid. At this point, the first $11.7 billion in aid will be used so that Ukraine can cover the damage it has suffered from the war so far and meet the urgent needs of citizens. Aid funds sent later will be preferred for problems such as opening the war to new fronts and military intervention. It was also stated that the $11.7 billion aid package will only be a financial support and that the new aid to Ukraine will include cash and ammunition. Now millions of people are beginning to wonder when the relevant aid will go to Ukraine.